What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hoop Addicts Anonymous. It's your boy Will. You can find me on X at 33_problems. You can also find me on Instagram at thatguyprior_33. And welcome to another episode. And I'm gonna just get right into it. We all know it. Let's just get into it. Let's talk about it. The NBA is cooked. I know it's shocking. I know you can't believe it. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to accept it. But the NBA is cooked. And I'm going to tell you why the NBA is cooked. We just had the NBA draft, right? 2024 NBA draft. Now, without thinking about it, tell me the top 2 draft picks. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I don't know them either. I had to look it up. That's sad. We just had an NBA draft. 58 players just got drafted. And the only one that we're talking about is Bronny James Jr. Which, I mean, I understand. I get it. The name alone is why we're talking about it. But the problem that I have is that the NBA as a whole, as a product, is cooked. You can't tell me otherwise. It's cooked. In the history of the NBA, we have never had a draft where the top 2 picks are not being talked about at all. Ever. That's the problem. And I don't know if the NBA has any inklings of what's going on, or if they have any inside information that we don't know about that, suggests otherwise, that the numbers are okay, that they're doing well, that the product is great. Maybe because of all the media rights and all the things like that, and people wanting to buy and sell their products with the NBA. So maybe they think because of those numbers that the NBA isn't cooked, but the NBA is cooked. It's cooked. And I'm going to tell you why again. Not only do we have 2 players that just got drafted that nobody knows about, but the play from the 2 top draft picks has been utterly disgusting. Alex Sarr the other night went 0 for 15. He's the number 2 pick in the draft. Number 2 pick in the draft. He went 0 for 15. That's a problem. He's coming in to a franchise with the Wizards, who are obviously in a rebuild situation, but having somebody like him come to a team who's supposed to be this next and up-and-coming star. He's already getting comparisons, not highly, but he's getting comparisons to Wemby. He's getting comparisons to other French European players who have been great on the defensive end, and maybe their offense wasn't there necessarily right away and had to get built up. So he's getting compared to all these other great European players that have come over and played in the league. But the problem is the play hasn't been translated to the court. It hasn't. The summer league is going on right now, and I can honestly tell you, between the top 2 draft picks, I haven't seen anything on the court that makes me say, oh, I gotta have that guy. Not one thing. When Wemby got drafted, we knew before he even got drafted, this is going to be the next great superstar, period. Even in the last couple of drafts that we had in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, there's at least been 1 or 2 players in the top 5 that we look at where we go, okay, this kid's got some talent. This kid has some potential, and this kid has something that we can't deny, and we got to harvest that and turn that into something. That hasn't happened with this draft so far. So far, I've saw a bunch of role players, glorified role players, that have been drafted in the top 10 picks. I'm going to read you the top 10 picks, and you tell me if any of these names jump off to you. The first pick, Zachary Richarchet. Nothing jumps off the board. Nothing screams out at you. Nothing goes, oh, I remember that one play where he did, et cetera, and it just blew up and went viral. Nothing. Crickets. Number 1 pick in the draft, by the way, but crickets. Again, number 1 pick, Zachary Richarchet. We got Alex Sarr, Reed Shepard, Stephon Castle, Ron Hollard II, TJ Saloon, another French guy, Donovan Clingan, Rob Dillingham, Zach Edey, and Cody Williams. Those are your top 10 picks in the 2024 draft. Zach Edey is the biggest name on that list, and he went number 9. National Player of the Year, went number 9. Ask me if anybody is talking about Zach Edey and his performance in the Summer League so far. No, they're not. And you want to know why? Because we're cooked. We're cooked. The product is cooked. In the next 4 or 5 years, the NBA draft is not going to mean anything. The NBA draft is just going to be where kids go, they get their name called, they take the picture, they get the hat, they shake the hand, and that's the last we hear of them. Because these guys that are getting drafted, they don't have the skill level, they don't have the play required, they don't have the physicalness required. They're small, they're athletic, but they're small, they're skinny, they're frail, and they just don't have the talent sometimes that it seems like that it needs to be an NBA level player right out of the gate. I haven't seen anything in watching Summer League games and highlights, clips. I've even gone and watched full games of the top 5 draft picks. I haven't seen anything that jumps off the table that I haven't seen already. I haven't seen anything that shows me that these guys are breakout players, franchise players, players that you can either build around and add pieces to, or any of that. I haven't seen anything that gives me any indication that these players are going to make a lasting impact in the NBA. And that's a problem. That is a serious problem that the NBA, a billion-dollar corporation, can't produce enough talent to keep people interested enough in the NBA during the summer. When Wemby got drafted last summer, granted it was summertime, but people were locked in. We were tuned in. When Lonzo Ball got drafted, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram got drafted to that Lakers team, we were locked in. I'm not even a Lakers fan, but we were locked in. Why? Because the hype, the name, the attention surrounding the name, the attention surrounding the hype, it made you want to go watch these games just so you could see what these players do. The Summer League game is on right now. I couldn't even tell you who was playing. And if the second overall pick, Alex Sarr, is playing right now, I still wouldn't even be able to tell you what he's done. And that right now is why the NBA as a product is cooked. And it's not just the NBA's fault. It goes down to a deeper level. If you look at the college game, you look at the high school level, we're so focused in our society when it comes to basketball. We're so focused on clips. We're so focused on highlights. We're so focused on, that wow factor, that we're not focused on the actual parts of the game that matter, which is creating a player that not only can contribute to the league, but maybe be a breakout star, or maybe be somebody that maybe wasn't on the radar, whatever the case may be. But now they're coming in and we have to pay attention to them. We don't have that right now. Our NBA product as a whole, we're lacking that boom from the younger generation. Outside of the younger stars, your Ant Edwards, your Jason Tatums of the world, Tyrese Halliburton's, Jalen Brunson's. Outside of those guys in that young group, that younger group under them, under the Jalen Green group, those guys coming in are not NBA ready. These guys are high school players who had all the hype and all the attention because they're able to put all these clips together, and then they go to college and they're role players, and they average 4 points per game, 5 points per game, 6 points per game, and then they're getting drafted within the top 15 picks in the NBA, when at a time you had to actually do something to get drafted in the top 10. Your numbers had to mean something to get drafted in the top 10. Your stats had to be there before you got drafted. Now, you put up enough clips, not points, not a season. You put up enough clips and you can get drafted now. That's why the NBA is cooked. If you go and look, even at the AAU level, you look at these tournaments, you look at these games, the kids, even as young as the 4th and 3rd graders, they're all copying what they see in the NBA. They're flopping, they're clapping, doing all the extra, doing all the antics, doing all the talking, wearing microphones, etc., etc. But the actual game is not translating. And that's a problem. That's a serious problem, because those same 4th and 5th graders are turning into middle schoolers, are turning into high schoolers, and they're coming to these D1 colleges They're playing 1 year. Everybody's hyping them up because they were able to do a couple of little things here and there, create a couple of little things that caused some buzz, and now they're being told, go to the draft. And they're not ready. And I'll give you another prime example of somebody that was not ready. Bronny James Jr. was not ready for the NBA. And he's still not. Even after seeing him play in the Summer League and seeing his game, Bronny's not ready. But because of his name and because the attention that he draws, he's going to get drafted. And that's what happened. But if you look at the draft and you look at all the players that were in the draft, a lot of these guys are guys that we're not going to even know of a year from now. And that's sad. That's sad. That's pathetic. And honestly, it's embarrassing for the league. Because like I said before, this is $1 billion product we're talking about. We're not talking about, your typical men's league in the neighborhood and they're just trying to scrap talent together and boom, voila, here you go. This is $1 billion product. People know about the NBA everywhere. Even if you're not a super diehard fan, you know of the NBA. You know some of the players from the NBA. And so the fact that we are in 2024 at the biggest stage when it comes to content, media, etc., and there's nothing to put out on our top 2 draft picks. Every time a Summer League games happen, I see more clips from Reed Shepherd and Bronny James than I do anybody else. And I'm not blaming Reed Shepherd. I'm not blaming Bronny James. Their social media teams are amazing because they're going to keep producing the content. And so is the NBA. But the problem I have is the NBA is promoting a 55th pick, but they're not promoting their first and second pick. That's a problem. And whether we want to acknowledge it or not, that's another problem. But the problem that's lying before us is that the NBA, $1 billion product, can't produce 2 top picks that keep you engaged enough to see their progress. If anything, we're only watching now just to see how bad they play. We just want to see how bad they are because we've already made up in our minds that they're trash. And that's a problem because like I said, they're the first 2 picks in the NBA. Zachary Richarche, Alex Sarr. First 2 picks in the NBA. Nobody could care that they were the top 2 picks. Nobody could care when they lace their shoes up. I guarantee you, nobody knows outside of people who have to actually work Summer League. Nobody's paying attention enough to know that, oh, hey, Alex Sarr is playing on Friday at 7 p.m. Nobody knows that unless you really have to look that information up or you just want to go to Summer League and catch a game. Outside of that, people are not paying attention. People are not tuned in. People are not locked in. They would rather watch Steph, KD, and Bron on the U.S. team or a WNBA game than watch the Summer League product. And the ones that are watching, it's just because they can't help it, because they just love basketball that much that they're going to tune in no matter what. But even those that are like diehards can tell you there's nothing to see. And that's a problem. That is a serious problem for the NBA. I'm going to tell you another reason why the NBA is cooked. Another reason why the NBA is cooked is because we don't have the ability now to put teams together to actually compete for championships. That's another reason why the NBA is cooked. Thanks to the new CBA, thanks to CJ McCollum and Grant Williams, who put together this disaster class of a CBA agreement, we now live in a day and age where teams cannot build through free agency or really trades for that matter because they can't afford it. That whole second apron thing that they've just installed and now is taking over has literally limited how teams can spend, how teams can trade, if teams are willing to spend, if teams are willing to trade. And then as a result, it's causing a fluctuation in our free agency market to where guys are getting overpaid for no production. I'll give you a big example. Everybody was juiced about it. And honestly, on the outside looking in as a fan, it was a great move. Isaiah Hartenstein signed with OKC. OKC was last in the league when it came to offensive and defensive rebounding. They added somebody who could obviously provide that rebounding presence that they were missing, and also give Chet Holmgren, a little break, seeing that he's playing 7-footer after coming off an Achilles injury, and he's a little on the smaller side, even though he's 7 foot tall. They went and added him to their roster after he signed a 4-year, $84 million contract. Isaiah Hartenstein averaged 6 points and 7 rebounds last year, and he's getting an $84 million contract. That's why the NBA is cooked. Isaiah Hartenstein is a great player, great role player, excels in his role. He's not an $84 million player. But because the NBA is in a place now where we can't really keep our players because we can't afford our players, so now teams are going to outbid us for our own players, you have this situation where guys are getting paid ridiculous amounts of money to leave their team because their home team can't afford to cultivate the talent. That's a problem. We saw it with the Warriors. That's why Klay Thompson is no longer a Warrior. The Warriors had a budget that they wanted to keep in mind because they still wanted to make some moves this summer because they want to bring in some more pieces. Who doesn't fit in that budget? Klay Thompson. Why? Because he wants a bigger contract. Why? Because he felt like he deserved it. And you know what? Rightfully so. He does, especially for all the work that he's done for that organization. However, the Warriors are looking at the taxes that they're going to have to pay if they would have given Klay the contract he wanted, and they decided against it. And you know what? I don't blame them because they're trying to think about their long-term future. They're trying to win now, and they're trying to put a team together that can compete for a championship. But they can't do it the way that we used to because the league as a whole is cooked. We're literally cooked. We can't make trades unless it's ridiculous amounts of trades. We have to throw in thousands of picks in order for it to work, or we have to throw in so many players for a guy to get traded or released or, moved, and the money makes sense. Like if you look at the Mikal Bridges trade, Mikal Bridges is getting the trade packages that KD, Bron, and Steph would get. Mikal Bridges is nowhere near the stratosphere of Steph, LeBron, or KD. But because the NBA is in such a terrible place as a product, he's getting moved around, and they're sending draft picks and moving money around as if he's a $400, $500 million player. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. And then I'll be honest, since we're talking about free agency, I'm going to tell you why free agency is cooked as well. Guys are willing to go and take the money because it's more guaranteed and go somewhere else versus staying home and continuing to win at home. And I get it, it happens a lot. A lot of times they tell you take the money because sometimes it's never guaranteed or this, that, and the third. But I remember a time where guys stayed home. Home teams took care of their home players. And now we live in a day and age where home teams can't afford it. Literally, teams that have drafted players, Klay Thompson, drafted players, grew their players, developed their players, and now their players are cornerstones of their franchise, and they can't afford to pay them. That's a problem. That's a serious problem with the NBA. And honestly, I'll tell you like this, the NBA can't fix it. It's a very simple solution, but we have to be diligent about it. Like it starts with, even at the like I said, the high school level, middle school level, college level, we have to get people out in these communities, these hoop communities. We have to get these people out there and talking to these players and educating these players so that they really understand not only what it's like to be a pro, but what is expected of them and what it's really like to really be a professional NBA player and what that might look like for you when you finally make it there. I talked about Isaiah Hartenstein, and yeah, okay, he got an $84 million contract. Some of us don't agree with it. It is what it is. However, if you look at what he does on the court, he excels in his role. I guarantee you when he came to the NBA, he probably didn't think he would just be a screener and a rebounder and finish at the rim. But you know what? $84 million later, I'm pretty sure he's grateful that he stuck to that role. And those are the things that have to be taught at the younger level, and not so that we limit the game of our kids, so that they don't try to, expand their game and add tools to their tool bag. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is not being realistic with these players and letting them know what their ceiling is. Sometimes we got to tell players, at best, you're a floor spacer. You're going to be shooting in the corner. You're going to be hitting a lot of threes off a catch and shoot. So let's practice that. Let's get that catch and shoot bag sold and solidified. We don't do that. We tell every kid they're going to be LeBron. We tell every kid they're going to be Jordan. We tell every kid they're going to be Steph. And for the truth of the matter is, these guys are once in a lifetime talents. This doesn't just happen. And then even with the ones that we do have that are once in a lifetime talents, these guys are still putting in the work as if they're scrubs. Steph Curry works as hard as he does now, or even harder now in year 14, 15 than he did as a rookie. We don't have that same hunger and desire in the league right now. A lot of the guys that are the newer guys, maybe 25 and under, a lot of those guys are good with playing the game, going home, getting on the Xbox, getting on the PS5, Twitch and streaming. And I want to say, I don't have a problem with it. By all means, have a life outside of basketball. That's what keeps a lot of us sane as hoopers. I get it. But the hunger and desire, I haven't seen it. Like, there's a hunger and desire to, get your name out there, your brand out there, things of that nature. But the hunger and desire to be an all-around complete player, hunger and desire to win championships, like, I don't feel like the NBA is there anymore. I feel like we're at a place now where a lot of guys are content with just being an NBA player. A lot of guys are content with just making the money to save their family, change their family's lives, and that be it. And so we have to get to a point where this means something to somebody else other than the people who are paying to promote their products. It has to mean something to the players. It has to mean something to the ownership, and it has to mean something to the league. Like, the league owes it to its fans to be better. The league owes it to its fans to promote better. I'm sorry. I know Bronny James is a big name, but he should not get the amount of promotion that he gets. I saw a banner that was being hung at one of the convention centers where they're holding the Summer League games. Bronny's picture was front and center. He's the second round 55th pick, and his picture is front and center. Cooked. I know. Cooked. Yeah, it's cooked. You know who else is cooked? The Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm going to tell you why. I know everybody was clamoring over that Paul George signing with them, and, they got their big three. I get it. From on paper, it looks amazing. It looks like a great big three. It looks like they can win a lot of games. It looks like they could be amazing on the court and probably make some noise in the East. But let me tell you, the only thing that is going to keep the Philadelphia 76ers relevant is availability. If Paul George isn't healthy, if Tyrese Maxey isn't healthy, if Joel Embiid, the biggest piece, isn't healthy, the Sixers just made a lateral move. Basically, like, he's literally going from the Clippers West to the Clippers East if nobody stays healthy. I love what Paul George brings to the table. I love him as a player. I love his game. I love the ability to also play point guard if need be, can stretch the defense out, can play make with the best of them. But him going to Philadelphia does not make them better. I really feel like it's a lateral move, and it looks good on paper. It looks good on 2K, but when the games actually matter, that's what matters. And from what I've seen, Paul George is great when he's healthy. But every year it seems like he gets to the playoffs and the injury bug bites, and then we don't see Paul George again. Or he gets to the playoffs and playoff P becomes playoff I can't see you. We can't find you. Where's Waldo? So I think, like I said, I like Philly. I like what they're doing. But to think that Paul George is going to save your franchise, you're cooked. Dallas Mavericks, you're cooked. There's a reason why the Warriors bench Clay. And like I said, I am a big Warrior fan, diehard Warrior fan. I'm from Oakland, California, born and raised. The Oakland A's, the Raiders, Warriors, those have been my teams as long as I can remember. So I remember when Clay got drafted. I remember Clay working his way up and building himself up to be Clay Thompson. But I can tell you right now, after watching Clay play last year and him going to Dallas and trying to be their starting small forward, that doesn't change anything for Dallas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Clay was a cone on defense last year. Teams were literally picking on him on defense because they know that he can't move like he used to. And it's not a knock against Clay. I get it. He's coming off 2 horrific sports injuries on the plus side of 30. So, yeah, he's got to work a little bit harder to get back to the old Clay. But as of right now, for Dallas to think that they have the one piece that's going to put them over the hump to get back to the finals, that's incorrect. You're cooked. And I'm telling you why. Clay is great. He's going to space the floor. He's going to get his looks with Luka and Kyrie. He's going to get all of those things. But the problem is Clay hasn't been consistent. Clay was getting open shots in Golden State. You don't think Steph doesn't have the same type of gravity pull that a Luka and Kyrie has? Absolutely. But when Clay was open, he didn't make the most of his opportunities, which is why he got benched for a rookie halfway through the season and had to earn his time on the court. There were times last year where Clay didn't even finish the game for the Warriors on the court because he was a liability on defense and on offense. It's one thing to be a liability on offense, but your defense is superb. He was a liability on offense and defense to the point where we had to play a rookie over him in a lot of those closing situations. And like I said, this is not a knock against Clay. This is just the truth of the matter, reality of the situation. And if the NBA wants to be better, like I said, and not be so cooked, we got to start being honest with these players. We got to start being honest with these teams. Like, I wish sometimes the commissioner would come up and veto some of these trades just so, like he did with Chris Paul with going to the Lakers, just so we can keep it how it is and make these teams work and go and renegotiate that CBA so that we can free up this money so that these teams can actually compete for a championship, so that we don't get another Boston and Celtics 65-19 record going into the finals where they're just basically coasting and bored because there's no competition. Like, at least when the Warriors were winning all their games, it was a gauntlet. When they were in their dynasty mode, in their dynasty phase, and they were winning all those games, 50-plus games, the 60-plus games, the 73-9, they still had to play against quality competition. A lot of these teams still had their core 3 or their core 4 or their big 2. Now, the league is so spread thin. You got 2 teams with a lot of players, and then everybody else just has maybe 1 or maybe 2 guys. That's cooked to me. Because where do we get a chance to create enough balance so that we have parity in the league, so that we have actually good playoff series, good final series, and good products for us to watch? I guarantee you, if you go back and look at them playoffs again, you go watch it. Just outside of Boston, outside of the teams that you like, just go back and look at those playoff series. Watch the games. Really, really take a look at what you're watching. Watching the product, watching the players on the court, watching the game in general. And you tell me what you see. Tell me what looks good to you. Tell me what stands out to you. Tell me what makes you think this is a great television product. Outside of everything that ESPN, ABC, and TNT does on their own to promote the product, as far as the actual game goes, tell me what you see when you watch the game. Tell me what you see. Because I'll be honest, the playoffs were boring. And I'm a diehard NBA fan. The playoffs were boring. Outside of a couple of series, it was a snooze fest. I caught myself towards the end of it catching more WNBA games that happened to be on than actually watching the playoffs. Even now, like I said, cooked. I'd rather watch a WNBA game today than watching a Summer League game. And it's not because I don't respect the men's side or I don't care for it or don't have a love for it. It's just the fact that the product is boring. A lot of the guys that are watching have no skill. Their skill is to dribble, attack a little bit, kick, set a screen, sit in the corner, shoot a horribly contested 3. And that's it. And that's a problem. And that is why the NBA is cooked. But like I said, we can be better. We can promote better. We can do better. Maybe more clinics. Maybe more of these coaches and these players going into these gyms, going into these games, going and having these meetings, seminars, whatever the case may be. We need to do it now because I really feel like in the next 5 or 6 years, the product that we know as the NBA will never be the same. We'll have all the money to watch all the games. We'll watch it everywhere. It'll be in 4K. It'll be a great experience. But as far as like the actual gameplay, it's going to be trash. And we're going to be begging for a time when we had what we have now, or had what we had in the past, where guys were really competing and going at each other and trying to take each other's heads off to win a game on a Tuesday night in Boston. Now we don't have that. But like I said, we can fix it. It can be changed. It can be corrected. The NBA just got to step up to the big boy table and stop playing around. And I get it. The money is important because that's how you pay the players. That's how we advance the game. That's how we're able to add so much more to the game so that the players are in a better position to give us the best product. But as of right now, I take the product over the money. Give me great games. I don't care if they're playing at Oracle Arena with the lights off. Give me a great game over a whole bunch of ads and television products and this, that, and the other just to promote the NBA when the game is trash. Give me a good game on a trash court versus an amazing court with amazing broadcast and it's trash players. So that's where I'm at. Let me know how you feel. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave some comments. If you think the NBA is cooked, let me know. If you don't think the NBA is cooked, you disagree, let me know that too. I appreciate y'all again for tuning in. This has been another episode of Hoop Addicts Anonymous. Like I said, I am your boy Will. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at 33_problems. You can find me on IG at thatguyprior33. I love y'all, man. Like I said again, thank you for tuning in. More content coming. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.